Hello, Aries, and welcome to Mind, Body, and Heart Tarot Therapy. I'm here to do the reading for the month of October 2019 for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising signs. It is a general reading for for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising signs. If it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, just doesn't. Don't take it. Don't take things that don't apply to you. Two of Cups. Use your own intuition to know and connect your own intuition to know how the messages apply to you and let the rest go. Okay, so Two of Cups is your current energy. Knight of Swords as your challenge. See what's the focus for Aries. Nine of Pentacles. Six of Swords is your advice. And here we have the Fool and Page of Wands as your future energy. Right. And bottom of the deck, you have the Six of... Actually, two wanted to come out. Six of Cups with the Three of Cups. Alright, so the Six of Cups and the Three of Cups as your underlying energy. We're talking about relationships based on the model of your childhood. Gonna pull out the clarifiers for this. Okay, so with conflicts in relationships. That's pretty much where you're at right now. Maybe you've been fighting. Seems to be challenging to balance out these conflicts and harsh communication that goes probably from you, Aries, knowing you. But not necessarily. Can go both ways. Okay. The Nine of... Okay, so we have the Chariot with the Nine of Pentacles as you focus. Balancing. It's all about balancing out, of course. But you knew that already. What's your advice? Why is the Six of Swords here as your advice? The Devil just turned over really quick, but it didn't come out. Instead, the Three of Pentacles came out with the Six of Swords as your advice. Where is this taking us? The Aries, the Ten of Wands. All right. And bottom of the deck, I had the Ten of Swords along with the Three of Cups and the Six of Cups. And the way I always read the Ten of Swords is an end of a pattern, an end of a way of being that you identified with for a good while. And it actually makes sense because it's coming from your childhood, right? Like the way you've seen relationship in your childhood, the way you've seen your parents relating to each other, gave you a certain model about relationships, and the way these people, your caretakers, parents or caretakers, took care of you and your siblings if you had any. It's they teach you how to relate to you, right? If your parents, for example, are overprotective, you will end up being overprotective yourself. You're never going to push yourself out of your boundaries or blah blah. You may have the opposite reaction, depends how extreme things go at home, but and then it causes you to rebel. But if you have the opposite reaction, that's very interesting as well to see where is that coming from. Is this a learned behavior, or is this a reaction to something that became habitual as well? For example, I was into my rebel side more. So most of the patterns that I've created, well, later on in my life, not when I was 5, but when I grew up a little bit, when I don't know if it's maybe around puberty, of course. That's when everybody gets rebel. But mine were pretty strong because my home environment was pretty strict and pretty imbalanced. So I kind of compensated and took care of myself by using my anger or whatever. But you know that later on can um, manifest in low shits of anger issues, and I'm like, come on. That's been a long time ago. Or why am I always angry? And then I realized, of course I'm always angry because I know my parents are always angry, always fighting at each other, always fighting at me. Therefore I inherited that, and here I am showing up into the world with this anger, inherited anger. And when the Ten of Swords appears, like one of these like learned behavior and gets confronted and hopefully also ends. Um, okay, this sounds all fantastic and dandy. The problem is that we get attached to these parts of the self that we grow up with because it's yeah, we need to justify the world one way or another. The world doesn't make sense, so we need to take upon ourselves things that aren't ours, and we're not aware we're doing this when a very early age, but we're doing it, and then we take these things as our own, as part of the self, and yeah, well, it's not particularly comfortable to have that layer peeled off. We may have resistance. That's why this card looks so dreadful, like somebody who's like left out of the cold and dying with 10 swords. Like it's really overkill. There is no one sword; it's 10 swords. You don't need 10 swords to kill a person, but you know this feels like passionate, impulsive killing. Um, it's to underline how uncomfortable it is really, and how we get overboard with this stuff. But you know, the sun is rising here, and you've got the darkness, like of the night going away, lifting up the clouds. It is a new cycle coming through, a new cycle of the mind. That's really something to celebrate. Look at the three of sorry. Sorry guys. So look at the Three of Cups here. This is something to celebrate. This is something that really, really, as uncomfortable as it might feel, if you keep the awareness of what's really happening. It's like when you take your cat or your dog to the vet. You know that the cat or the dog is going to go through hell, or your baby for that matter, you know. They're going to cry, they're going to look at you like, oh my God, you're betraying me, you're hurting me, why are you doing this to me, you're putting me in a cage, and it's that all that noise, and they go, there's these other people, take me into that weird room, they put needles in me, what have you done to me? It's traumatic for them, you know, but we got to do that, otherwise they die, or you know, well, they need to have their vaccines or whatever. Of course we're doing that to protect them, but we have the awareness, and of course we suffer with them, we feel the compassion, but we know that it's not the end of the world. It may seem like the end of the world to them, but it's not. We know. In the same way, we can take care of ourselves during this process of the Ten of Swords. We know it feels like shit, we know that we have resistance, but we know what's happening. So we are here, we are driving this from a place of awareness. That's why it's a cause of celebration. All right, my darlings, that's a good month. That's good work to do. All right. So there we go. We have as your current energy or the Two of Cups with the Five of Swords. And again, model of the relationship from your childhood. You apply that, what you see in your very early childhood, and so does your partner, in your relationships today with I don't know, romantic relationship with a partner, of course, but it can also be with the way we relate with our friends, the way we relate with our co-workers, the way we relate to other people generally. And we are in Libra season, of course, that's gonna show up quite a lot. um and there's conflict here, there's conflict in your relationships, right? You may feel this need of having small victories. And you Aries, I'm sorry, you Aries do that a lot. You like to be right, you like to assert yourself, and that's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with being assertive, but you can get overboard with that sometimes, and you can have like really really enjoy having these victories, even if they come at a cost, and that cost sometimes is at putting somebody down. It's like, I put you down so I lift myself up. It does feel like a victory, but is it worth it? Like, pick your battles. Not every time you need to be right. And always look at this from this new filter, that you can always remind yourself, okay, I'm doing this and I know where it's coming from. I can examine this, but it is my own thing. It's not the other person's fault. Yes, you're both participating in this conflict, but you all have your own like childhood wounding to be healed, and I don't know, limiting beliefs. Like when we are children, we basically um internalize the most ridiculous of beliefs, and that happens because we are making sense of the world with the 5 years old mind, 4 5 years old, like that's it. Okay, so if mama doesn't say good morning anymore and kisses me every day, that means she doesn't love me anymore, not that she actually had a second job to raise me or whatever, like this is just an example. But we oh and then and we operate based on that, and they're deeply internalized. We don't, if not, most of the time we're not aware of them. But it is your journey to become aware of what are your particular beliefs that you've internalized, and why are you showing up the way you show up in the relationships. No, this is not about like, oh my god, I'm doing something wrong, I should feel guilty or ashamed of myself. Never. That's not the point. The point is to set yourself free. The point is to bring in this Ten of Swords, to allow that part of you, like this part of you actually dies, not because you're in conflict with it, just because it's obsolete. And it's been obsolete for a while. That's why it's not helping anymore. It's doing more damage than it does help right now. It was necessary at the time. At the time, you had to make sense of the world one way or another. When you've put on this shield, when you've put on this persona, when you took on this, like when you start identifying with this that you've inherited. Of course, like this was the model of your childhood. This is how your household was created. When you were born in there, you had no discernment. um but I literally celebrate the Ten of Swords when it comes in my spread. I know it's going to be uncomfortable, but I'm like, okay, good, finally I'm taking that. I'm done with that one layer, whatever it is that I'm coping like with at the time. What am I working with at the time? Where am I putting my attention? Where I'm putting my awareness? And in this case, for you, is this type of awareness. How do I show up in relationship? Where does the conflict coming from? Am I showing up from a place of like, balance and respect, or am I taking these small victories for my ego? It's to reflect upon. That's it. It's helping you to balance out and to let go of something that wasn't yours to start with. And in this context, you have the Knight of Swords and the Six of Pentacles as your challenge. So, of course, in these relationships that you're showing up in, um, you may show up a little bit aggressive. These Five of Swords, obviously, it's a battle here. And if you come charging out with the Knight of Swords talks a lot about communication and about truth. Yes, you have your truth. Yes, your truth wants to be communicated, but it's very important how you do that. If you're like just like going always on attack. Look at this person. He doesn't wait to see what's on the other side, doesn't take a breather to reflect at the situation. Is this right? Is this wrong? Am I acting on learned behavior and automatic responses here, or am I actually uh, standing up for myself and truly communicating a truth that can be received? Is it gonna be received, or am I doing this just to put the other person down? We can, like, no, we can, the way we communicate the truth is very important. It really is. So, and also another challenge for you is to balance up the way you put your time and energy in this relationship, or in your friendships, or in your, even at work. Like if you, for example, do a lot of overtime at work, and it's not necessarily asked for. Maybe it's asked for, but still it's your time and it's your decision to do it, and then you get frustrated about it, and then you all get angry in every meeting, in every, because you put in too much. You don't know how to when to balance out, because if you put in too much time, then you won't be able to keep a clear mind. You won't be able to have that rest that is very necessary to keep focused and balanced during a project or whatever. This is just an example. The work ethics is very, very complicated issue, and the people that put in overtime, I've done a lot of that. And to be honest, it was asked of me. It was like necessary, and it was also in a culture where overtime was very normalized. That's where I was working somewhere in Asia, and you know I didn't know how to put to say the no, because everybody was doing it, and it felt eventually very abusive. It took me a while to remove myself from that situation, to realize that this is not helping me. This is destroying my health, really. But I had to, and I was feeling like this. I was literally angry every day. I was always in a fight with my boss, or we had to deliver. We need to put this, we need to do that, we need to do it in this way. But I wasn't coming from a place of like problem solving and, rested with creativity and imagination. No, it was like, let's just get things done. And yes, I was communicating truths, but those truths were communicating in a way that weren't meant for you to necessarily understand them. They were meant to just show my anger and frustration. So watch out this. This is really, um, again, as long as you keep this filter on, knowing that this is showing up because it's coming from here, it's coming from, is not really the other person. It's because you were, I don't know, I've put myself in the situation working too hard because I had to prove myself. I could have gone to other type of studios or offices, but that was my path. I needed to learn this. I needed to learn to say no. I needed to learn to let go of that part of me that needed to prove itself that, okay, I can do it in this particular environment. We have the Nine of Pentacles with the Chariot as your focus. And yeah, you focus. You can focus on your own space. You focus on your own what's in your garden here. And with the Chariot, like you're aware of you're aware of both the dark side and the bright side here. You're aware of the duality that started this conflict in the first place, or in like the dynamics that you're entertaining here. But putting your focus on this is important. Putting your focus on taking responsibility for your own emotions, taking responsibility for taming your own impulses, and not just taking responsibility, but enjoying the fruits of that, because there's a lot of good stuff that come from your childhood, not just these like patterns that, like, you've been also nourished, and you obviously survived your childhood, or you wouldn't be here. There must have been some love there There's always is, only that sometimes it gets twisted in weird ways, because that's our caretakers' experience of love from where they're coming from, you know. Um, the point is that you can focus on the hard work that you've put into the world to be where you are. You can focus on the fact that you are a person, independent person in yourself, whether you're in a relationship or not, where you relate to other people. We are interdependent. Yes, we are all part of a whole, we are all part of society. You are not surviving alone on an island, but we are still independent people that choose to spend time with other people, choose to partner up, choose to, nobody forces you to be in one particular or another relationship. And sometimes we need to cut off the even the closest of relationships in order to come into this place, at least for a while, you know, and make peace with ourselves. But the point is that you need to, this is your focus, right? You're focusing on this helps you deal with the situation. mm, Focusing on yourself and focusing on the fact that you are empowered. You are focus what's happening in your heart, find back that purity, that place of unconditional love, when you love yourself and you love the other. No, not this, not necessarily the learned behaviors and personas. Those are defense mechanisms and survival skills. We love that they help me survive, and I love that they helped you survive, but I don't need to hold on to that identity and persona, and neither should hold on to your partner's identity and persona that you may have, maybe, you know, related to. Sometimes we bond through our trauma, say we have, say, similar, sorry, defense mechanisms. We feel very connected to the people that share this, because we feel understood. We really feel understood. Unfortunately, we also help entertain them and keep them alive. If, for example, my way of dissociation from my inner pain was to read a lot of sci-fi, I always love people that read a lot of sci-fi, and we have so much to talk about. We will talk forever, but I won't read anything else, you know. And that's just an easy example. If my way of coping was drinking, then I would bond with people that also drink, and then we're all gonna have a drinking problem. We're gonna entertain this drinking forever and ever and ever until things collapse. And there's so many examples of completely dysfunctional families that raise children like this, and then the children end up, like, you know, being raised in an environment with alcoholic parents, and or being taken to foster homes or whatever. The point is, like, I'm not saying that this is your dynamic or this was your childhood. These are examples. I hope you can make sense of that. um what I am saying is that your focus is on yourself right now, and understanding, like, you are yourself. You're not your patterns. You're not the sum. You're more than the sum of your parts. And there's so much richness within you, and there's so much beauty within you. And yes, we can get out of control and sometimes communicate harshly, sometimes have these like silly battles, um, but they come from here. You can still love yourself. You just, like, out of self-love, you learn to balance up and to focus your energy towards your own journey here. The chariot is, you know, he learned everything he needed to learn in the safety of the castle, in the safety of the home, and now he goes out there to explore the world. You know, it's the hero's journey. This is your journey. This all is part of your journey. The persons in your life, they're just joining you there for, or it can be for a partner, for lifetime partnership. It can also be just for a moment, and there's always something to be learned from that. There's always lessons. And you know, the sphinx is here, one is black and one is white, like one is the temperance and one is devil, and you see that they're pulling into completely different directions. But the chariot does move forward because these two are in balance. It's actually very static energy. Nothing moves here. It's the energy of the mind, really. And your advice is the Six of Swords with the Three of Pentacles. The Six of Swords talks about, you know, you moving away from a mental state, moving away from how you think about a situation. Yeah, this Ten of Swords is necessary. This Ten of Swords is necessary, and the Six of Swords is necessary in this process. I need to like I am identified with this pattern. I am identified with this part of me that acts in this way and this way, and I always feel in the right and justified to do it. I feel very justified of my anger, or I feel very justified of my frustration because you know, I was abused, or because this bad behavior, and so on and so on and so on. And yes, to a certain degree, it's important to feel angry, and it's important to stand up for ourselves and have those harsh communication. And maybe when this Five of Swords is necessary every once in a while, you know, to observe ourselves doing it. But once we see it, once we see that, we realize we're not really victims. We're not victims of our emotions. We're not victims of our impulses. We tame them, and we balance our emotions. We take responsibility for them. Therefore, you move away from this mentality where you actually accepting bad behavior, or entertaining bad behavior, both from yourself and the other. And you are more able to have this type of partnership and connections with people where we're learning from our differences instead of like forcing each other to be the same. Okay, so I bonded with you because I felt like we are so similar, and yet I see so many differences where like we're too different. We can't work together. No, that's horrible. Now we can learn from these differences as long as the communication doesn't come from this harsh way. You gotta do like this, you gotta do like that. I want you to be this, I want you to be that. But the communication comes from like, so this is who I am, and this is how I want to like. These are my boundaries, and they're healthy boundaries. I teach you that this is what I need. I can communicate my needs without having them to be expectations, and without expecting you to magically know my needs, even though I never communicated them. And also, I'm learning from the fact that you are different, and I want to hear about your needs and your because I love you, and I want to be here with you, and I want not just to have this ideal version of how things should be, but I want you to be genuinely happy based on your needs, not based on what my needs are, and I suppose it's yours as well, you know? That's a partnership from people that are coming from different schools of life, and with different skills they put them together and they create something bigger. All right, darling. So, well, as your future energy, we have the Fool, the Page of Wands with the Ten of Wands. And again, tens are end of a cycle. You're letting go finally of this burden that you've been carrying, that you have to show up in a certain way, that you have to give this much, that you have to uh, fight all the time, maybe, you know, if this is your only way, you know how to stood up for yourself by showing up in these conflicts all the time. And it is a lot of burden because it takes a lot of energy, you know. And I'm like, ah, shit, this I need to put boundaries again. Am I gonna go into the conflict, into the fight? Am I gonna tell him or her, or am I gonna overlook it tonight and gather even more frustration and anger within myself and gonna explode tomorrow and whatever? But if you understand that that's not required of you, it's not your responsibility or duty to show up in the way that you've habitually showed up, then that burden starts to lighten up, you know, and you are unlocking a new cycle, and that's fantastic. And you're completely in your cycle with the Fool, you know, where you step in into that place of having like faith and trust in yourself and in your inner wisdom and in the universe, really. Whatever you believe in can be God, if that's what you want to call it. But it's that trust that you're guided and you're protected. The fool has this dog here that's like always going to warn him that there's something wrong going on, and the fool has that full trust that no matter what's coming, it's meant to be coming. So he's like that surrender that the Buddhists talk about, surrender, complete surrender to whatever is that happened, not having resistance. That's what surrender means. Surrendering does not mean like, okay, so now you can do whatever you want with me and I will have no boundaries and I give up on life. No, surrender means that I surrender my resistance to the way reality is, and I take everything for what it is, and I'm being present with it, instead of like trying to have all these defense mechanisms, dissociations, and trying to change the way things are in the moment. That's denial. That's pushing things away, and that goes into the subconscious, and then creates like deeper into the shadow, and so on and so on and so on. It creates frustration and anger and all that. The point is that the moment you're like, okay, so things are like this, it can be, oh, they're actually not as bad as I thought, or like, okay, the things are really shit right now. We let's work from here. Let's work where things are, not from where I want them to be. So we don't idealize things anymore. The page of wands, the pages are agents of transformation. The pages are agents of like, and they're also like communicating. So it has to, communication has to do with messages. So yeah, look within yourself and find that part of you that really knows how to grow on its own. It's like a child grows, allow that part of you to grow. And when you outgrow certain defense mechanisms and they don't serve you anymore, it's okay to let them go. We don't need to attach to them too much. But that growth happens naturally. It's not from my resistance or from striving to be something else. It's accepting me exactly who I am, with all my faults, or the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's the same with the other person and with the situation that we create for ourselves. Also with our parents and their own conditioning, they didn't do anything that they did, whether it was overprotective or abusive or neglecting or this or that. They did all this stuff in their minds for love. They just didn't know better. So it's not about blaming, it's not about shaming, it's not about putting the responsibility on someone else. It's about dropping what's not mine, letting go of it, and start allowing that natural growth to happen. Happens the moment I stop running away from my reality. All right, my darlings, I hope that makes sense to you. It's quite a heavy reading, and it's a lot to carry here. I'm gonna pull out a Rumi oracle card to have some wisdom of the heart on the table. Since this reading already got so long, keep trying to make them shorter, but I don't seem to realize to manage that. The courage of your love. That's it, baby. It's the courage of your love. Like thinking about bringing at the table your love, not your fear. Bringing at the table, like having the courage to love each and every part of yourself. Even the pattern that's dying here, that was there for a reason. Being able to even love that, not loathe it or hate it or overkill it. We sometimes hate so much aspects of ourselves, but we know it actually takes bravery to love it, to have this, like that mantra, I love you, I accept you, and I set you free. But it does come from a place of love. Whenever everything that comes from a place of strife and conflict, it's not done with. It takes bravery to be able to love the people that hurt us, and we don't always have to do this. I mean, like, it takes bravery to forgive. The forgiveness is also a form of love, and it's a form of self-love, really. Okay, I'm just going to take in the read just a tiny bit. This is number 38. The poem from Rumi associated with this card says, love is without reason, rationality is like a cane. Judgment needs a cane because it is blind. When love arrives, thought dies in its shadow. Love is the sunrise, while thought is only a flashing light. Thought dies in its shadow. What do you want more literal than this? Like, look at this person. It's like it's soul's energy. It's energy of the mind. Your thoughts are dying in the shadow because love arrives. Because you understand the emotions that run through you, and you understand what an equal partnership based on love and mutual exchange comes from, not from. You learn how to balance, you learn how to love. When love arrives, the mind dies in a shadow. No, the thought dies in a shadow. Okay, let me go back to it. Sorry, I got it enthusiastic and I dropped it. All right, so that was a beautiful point from Rumi. So this oracle comes with particular guidance for you. You are not to give into less than you are worth, or to the shaming stories of others of our culture that would cast your regal lion nature into the falsehood of beliefs that you have no choice or power. Exactly. When I'm talking about childhood conditioning, that doesn't only come from our parents, it comes from society, from school, from everything, like culture that we've been raised in. You are not to give into the idea that you are a victim and cannot free yourself from your suffering, that you are less than any other. These are lies. These are petty deceptions so unworthy of you. Do not believe them. Roar at them until the weak glue holding them together melts under the fire of your holy breath, and they lie dismembered and powerless at your feet. Then intend that those bits and pieces in decay are lovingly returned to the earth, through whom they can be used to fertilize new life. These parts of you, this energy that you've put into that, let it be transformed. And have love for it, that's the thing. Like, you understand that you gotta go through this, but do it from a place of love, not from a place of hatred. This oracle comes with another message for you. You have a challenge before you, or that you are now moving through, but you have what is necessary to succeed and overcome it. No matter how long it has endured or how big you have built that challenge up to be in your mind, no matter how unsolvable the issue appears to be, there is and shall be a victory beyond it, and it's imminent. This oracle has come to you to let you know that you are empowered to succeed. Oh, yes, you are, my love. Where is it? That you're empowered to succeed, you have what is required within to do it, and that the time for your victory is drawing near. And yes, this may sound a little bit like, oh yeah, I know, that's what they always say, I have it all within me to succeed, but I don't feel like it at all. I don't find it. Well, this is like a little bit of a map for that. Like, look where the focus is, like your empowerment. Those are real. You are a beautiful and powerful creature, and you need to connect to that from in your own way. You find your way back to yourself. Your subconscious mind always gives you hints of how to get to where you need to get. Your inner self, your intuition will guide you. Trust yourself for that, and trust the love. Always follow the love. Have courage to love everything Also, when you say no to someone, you don't need to hate them, you can love them. The courage of your love. All right, my goodness, my darlings, I hope this makes sense to you. This is an awfully long reading. If it did, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you here soon. Have a beautiful October.